Okay, I have a challenge for you. No Google, no glancing at your phone, and definitely no consulting Siri. I want you to name the seven wonders of the world.
Ah, the classic trivia trap. And I'm willing to bet that if you're listening to this, you probably you rattled off three, maybe four, and then you started improvising.
Oh, for sure. You probably said the Great Wall of China.
Maybe the Colosseum, perhaps the Taj Mahal.
I actually tried this on a friend of mine who is a huge history buff. He got the pyramids, obviously,
Yeah.
and he said the Hanging Gardens. And then there was this long pause, and he said, Stonehenge.
And you can't really blame him. The term Seven Wonders has become this, this cultural catch-all for big, impressive, old stuff.
Exactly. But the actual history of these lists, and it is emphatically lists, plural, is just this chaotic mess of tourism, engineering, political lobbying, and, well, eventually interplanetary geology.
It is a mess, but it's a revealing one. It's a fascinating look at the evolution of human values, isn't it? Well, we started with what were essentially travel brochures for Greek aristocrats. Then we moved through this centuries-long period of historical confusion and romanticism.
And then it took a sharp turn.
A very sharp turn toward functional civil engineering in the 20th century. And finally, we ended up voting on the internet like it was American Idol.
So that is our mission today. We're going to catalog the impossible. We're unpacking the history of the ultimate bucket list. And we aren't just looking at the monuments themselves, though we will get into the nitty-gritty of, how you actually build a lighthouse in 280 BC.
Right. We're looking at why humans feel this deep, primal need to rank, stack, and catalog the spectacular.
And what we're going to find is that this isn't just about big piles of stone.
Not at all. It's about how our definition of wonder has shifted from myth to utility and finally to preservation.
Okay, let's start at the source code, the original seven, the canonical ancient list. My first question looking at all this research was, why seven? We love a top 10 list. We're a base 10 society. Why seven?
It's a great question. We do love base 10 now. But for the ancient Greeks, specifically in the Hellenistic period, around the 3rd and 2nd centuries, BC 7 wasn't just a number, it was the number.
Like it had a special meaning.
A huge meaning.
Yeah.
Pythagoras, the mathematician, he revered 7 because it was a prime number that couldn't be divided. It implied this kind of structural integrity and perfection.
Look, it goes beyond just the math, right? It's cosmological.
Exactly. Look up at the sky in antiquity. What do you see moving against the backdrop of the stars?
The planets.
Right. You've got 5 planets you can see with the naked eye. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, plus the sun and the moon.
That makes 7.
That makes 7 celestial bodies that, to them, dictated the entire rhythm of the universe.
So if you're going to catalog the greatest achievements on Earth, you want that list to mirror the perfection of the heavens.
Precisely. It represents plenty and perfection. If you had 8 wonders, it would feel, messy, excessive. It would break that cosmic symmetry they were so obsessed with.
Okay, so we call this the canonical list, but it's not like there was some central committee in Athens ratifying it. Who was actually writing these things down?
That's the tricky part. There wasn't one single official list at first. Herodotus mentioned wonders. Callimachus of Cyrene, a scholar at the Library of Alexandria, wrote a whole treatise on it, but that text it's completely lost to history.
So what do we have?
The main sources we rely on today are a poem by a guy named Antipater of Sidon, written around 140 BC, and then a later work by a mathematician named Philo of Byzantium.
And Antipater wasn't writing a history book. He was basically writing a travel blog.
He absolutely was. The Greek word they used wasn't themata, which means miracles. It was theamata.
Which means?
Sights, things to be seen. This was a to-do list for wealthy Greek or Roman tourists who could finally travel safely around the Mediterranean.
Right, because of the stability after Alexander the Great's conquests.
Exactly. The Hellenistic kingdoms opened up the world for them.
That explains the geography then. I noticed there's nothing from India, nothing from China, nothing from the Americas. It's a very specific Alexander the Great footprint.
It's the Hellenistic bubble. It's the Mediterranean rim and the ancient Near East. If Alexander or his successors didn't control it, well, it didn't make the list.
But here's the thing that really surprised me. We talk about this ancient list as if it was carved in stone in 300 BC. But the canonical list, the specific 7 we all learn in school, wasn't actually finalized until, wait for it, 1572.
That's right. The Octo Mundi Miracula.
Which My Latin is rusty, but that translates to 8 wonders of the world, right?
It does. It was a text by a Dutch artist, Martin van Heemskerk, who produced this amazing series of engravings. He's the one who standardized the list we use today.
But he included 8.
He did. He put the Colosseum on there as an 8th wonder. But because of that magic number bias we just talked about, the branding was just too strong. The Colosseum got dropped, and we stuck with the 7.
So let's do a deep dive into that canonical 7. I want to get into the engineering, because some of these claims just seem impossible. First up, the heavyweight champion, the Great Pyramid of Giza.
The oldest, and of course the only one still in existence today, built around 2560 BC for the pharaoh Khufu.
The survival rate of this list is terrible. It's literally 1 out of 7. But the pyramid, I mean, we all know what it looks like, but the precision is what gets me.
It's baffling. The base is a near-perfect square, and the sides are aligned to the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, west, with an accuracy of 3/60ths of a degree.
That's insane.
We struggle to do that today with modern surveying equipment. And remember, this was built before the wheel was even widely used for transport in Egypt. They used sledges and wet sand to reduce friction.
It used to look different, didn't it? It wasn't this sort of stepped, sandy-colored structure we see now.
No, not at all. It was originally encased in highly polished white Tura limestone. It would have shown, like a brilliant white star in the desert sun.
And the capstone.
The pyramidion, at the very top, was likely plated in gold or electrum. It was designed to be blindingly beautiful.
Okay, moving to something that definitely did not survive. The Colossus of Rhodes. This is the one where pop culture gets it all wrong. I always pictured it straddling the harbor entrance, like in Game of Thrones.
The legs spanning the harbor image is a complete medieval invention. Engineering-wise, it's just impossible.
Right.
If the statue had its legs that wide apart, it would have collapsed under its own weight. Not to mention, it would have blocked the entire harbor during construction.
So what was it, actually?
It was a massive bronze statue of the sun god Helios. It stood about 33 meters high, so roughly the size of the Statue of Liberty, from her heel to her crown. And it stood on a pedestal near the harbor entrance, not over it.
And the construction was interesting. It wasn't a single solid cast.
No, you couldn't possibly cast something that big in one go back then. It was built in sections, using cast bronze plates riveted to an iron framework. And then, this is the low-tech part, they filled the hollow legs and the lower body with stones to weigh it down so it wouldn't, tip over in the wind.
But it didn't last long at all.
No, only about 54 years. An earthquake hit Rhodes in 226 BC, and the statue snapped at the knees and fell onto the land.
And it just lay there.
For over 800 years. It became a tourist attraction in its own right. People would travel just to see the ruins. The writer Pliny the Elder said that the broken thumb was larger than most statues.
Wow. Next up, the ghost of the list. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon.
This is the most controversial one. We're still not 100% sure they even existed. Or if they did, where exactly they were.
The story goes that they were in Babylon,
Yeah.
built by Nebuchadnezzar II for his wife, Amytas.
Right, because she missed the green hills of her homeland. But archaeologists have dug up Babylon pretty thoroughly, and they haven't found any evidence of a pump system or the massive terraces described in the texts.
Which has led to a fascinating modern theory.
A really cool one by Dr. Stephanie Daly from Oxford. She argues we've all been looking in the wrong city. She suggests the gardens were actually in Nineveh, the capital of the Assyrian Empire, built by a king named Sennacherib.
And the evidence for that is what, linguistic?
Partly. The ancient Greeks often confused Babylon and Nineveh. They were both major Mesopotamian cities. But also, Nineveh actually has archaeological evidence of a massive aqueduct system and Archimedes' screws used to raise water. It fits the description of the gardens perfectly.
So the Hanging Gardens of Nineveh. Like it. Okay, let's talk about the Lighthouse of Alexandria. This wasn't just a statue. This is a functional machine.
It was a true marvel, the Pharos, built on an island in the harbor of Alexandria, Egypt. Estimates put it somewhere between 100 and 130 meters tall.
So for context, that's like a 40-story building.
A 40-story building constructed in the 3rd century BC. Yes.
And the light itself.
Mm-hmm.
There are all these stories about a giant mirror.
That's right. At the very top, there was a fire that burned at night, but during the day, they used a massive mirror-likely polished bronze to reflect the sun. Some ancient sources claim you could see the light from over 30 miles away.
And there are even those legends that the mirror could focus the sun to burn enemy ships.
Which is almost certainly a myth, an Archimedes' death ray situation, but it speaks to how advanced the optics must have seemed to the ancients.
And it stood for a long time.
Over 1,000 years. It was damaged by a series of earthquakes in the medieval period, and eventually the Mamluk Sultan Qaitbay used the fallen stones to build a fortress on the exact same spot. So if you visit the Citadel of Qaitbay today, you are literally looking at the recycled bones of the lighthouse.
Then we have the mausoleum at Halicarnassus. This is in modern-day Bodrum in Turkey.
Right. This was the tomb of Mausolus, who was a satrap in the Persian Empire. It was so magnificent, so grand, that his name, Mausolus, became the root word for any grand tomb, a mausoleum.
What made it a wonder? Was it just its size?
It was the aesthetic fusion. Mausolus was a guy who lived at this crossroads of cultures, so his tomb combined Greek columns, an Egyptian pyramid-style roof, and Latian sculpture. It was this weird, beautiful architectural remix.
Next, the statue of Zeus at Olympia.
This was located inside the temple at the sanctuary of Olympia. This was the work of Phidias, who was basically the greatest sculptor of antiquity, the rock star.
And we aren't talking about marble here, are we?
No, this was chryselephantine.
Chryselephantine.
It means a wooden core covered in plates of gold and ivory. The skin of Zeus was made of ivory. His robes and his beard were all gold. It was about 12 meters tall, and he was seated on a throne.
The geographer Strabo famously noted that if Zeus had stood up, he would have unroofed the temple.
It was designed to absolutely overwhelm you. You'd walk into this dark temple, and there, gleaming in the gloom, was this golden giant. It was all about religious awe.
And finally, the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus.
The largest of them all. It was massive, roughly the size of an American football field. It had double rows of columns surrounding the main chamber. It was far, far larger than the Parthenon in Athens.
And this one has the most dramatic story of destruction.
Oh, yeah. July 21st, 356 BC. A man named Herostratus set fire to the wooden roof beams. When they caught him and tortured him to ask why he did it, he said he did it simply so his name would be immortalized.
He just wanted to be famous.
He was the world's first clout chaser via an act of terrorism. The Ephesians were so horrified that they not only executed him, they passed a law damnatio memoriae forbidding anyone from ever speaking his name again under penalty of death.
Which, ironically, failed spectacularly.
The Streisand effect of antiquity. Here we are, 2,300 years later, talking about Herostratus. But if you look at this list as a whole, you realize something. This wasn't a history book.
It was a Michelin guide.
It was. It was a celebration of human-made spectacle. It was celebrating the fact that, hey, look what we humans can build.
But then, antiquity ends. The classical world fades. The Library of Alexandria burns. And we enter this fuzzy period where the list starts to get weird. We see all these references online to the wonders of the Middle Ages or the medieval mind.
Right, and we need to unpack this immediately because it's one of the biggest misconceptions in popular history. You'll see these lists with Stonehenge, the Great Wall of China, the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
But the catch is?
The catch is that people in the Middle Ages didn't call themselves medieval.
Of course not. They just called it now.
Exactly. The concept of a Middle Age, implying you're stuck between two better things, antiquity and the Renaissance, that term didn't become popular until the 16th century. The word medieval wasn't even invented until the Enlightenment.
So no monk in the year 1200 sat down and wrote a list titled Wonders of the Medieval World.
Absolutely not. These lists are retrofitted. Brewer's Dictionary of Phrase and Fable, which is a great source for debunking this stuff, calls them later lists. They were compiled by writers in the 19th and 20th centuries who looked back and tried to create a bridge between the ancient and the modern.
And because they were just grabbing cool stuff from history without checking the dates, the timeline is a complete disaster. I mean, Stonehenge.
Stonehenge is Neolithic. It was built between 3000 and 2000 BC. That's contemporary with the pyramids. It's thousands of years before the Middle Ages even began.
What about the Great Wall of China?
That one's a bit more nuanced. The wall exists in sections, and the early walls date back to the 7th century BC. But the iconic wall we all see in photos, the brick and stone structure with the watchtowers.
That's the Ming Dynasty wall.
Exactly. The Ming Dynasty ran from 1368 to 1644. So technically, the very beginning of it is late medieval, but most of it is actually early modern.
Okay, so a few of them do kind of fit, though. The Leaning Tower of Pisa.
That fits. Construction began in the 12th century. So sure, that's medieval. And Hagia Sophia in Istanbul was built in the 6th century, so it bridges that gap between late antiquity and the early Middle Ages.
It seems like this list is just a greatest hits of pre-industrial engineering. But the real shift, the moment where we stop looking at art and start looking at pure utility, that happens much, much later.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting for me. Because for centuries, a wonder was something you just looked at. It was aesthetic. You stood in front of this statue of Zeus and felt small. But then in 1994, the American Society of Civil Engineers, the ASCE, decided to crash the party.
And they completely reframed the conversation. They weren't interested in beauty in the traditional sense. They wanted to honor the greatest civil engineering achievements of the 20th century.
This list is hardcore. It's not about gold plates or ivory statues. It's about concrete, steel, and conquering nature.
It's a total paradigm shift. If the ancient list is man honoring God, the AE list is man controlling the environment.
Well said. Let's look at their picks, because each one represents a specific kind of triumph. First, the Panama Canal.
The ultimate example of altering geography. This wasn't just digging a ditch.
Not at all. France tried it first in the 1880s and failed miserably. They lost 20,000 men to yellow fever and malaria. It was an engineering war zone.
So when the U.S. takes over in 1904, the first thing they have to do isn't engineering, it's medicine.
Exactly. They had to essentially eradicate the mosquito from the canal zone before they could pour a single cubic meter of concrete effectively. And then you have the engineering of the Gatun locks. It's just breathtaking, lifting ships 85 feet above sea level to cross a continent.
Next on their list, the Golden Gate Bridge, completed in 1937.
And people said it couldn't be done. The winds were too high, the fog was too thick, the tides were too strong.
It's a suspension bridge, right? So the roadway hangs from these massive cables.
Yeah, those main cables are 3 feet thick, made of 27,000 individual wires spun together. And the color, the international orange, that was actually just the primer, but the consulting architect saw it and said, wait, that looks amazing against the blue water and the fog. So they kept it.
Then we have the Channel Tunnel.
The channel.
Connecting the UK and France.
Yeah.
31 miles long, with 23 of those miles under the ocean floor.
The psychology of that is just wild. You're on a train underneath the sea.
And the engineering feat was the precision. They started digging from the UK side and the French side at the same time. They had to meet in the middle, deep underground. When they finally broke through in 1990, the two sides were misaligned by only 35 centimeters.
That is mind-blowing accuracy. What about the Itaipu Dam?
On the border of Brazil and Paraguay, in terms of just raw steel and concrete, it's massive. But the real wonder is the energy. It generates enough electricity to power roughly 75% of Paraguay and nearly 20% of Brazil. It's the beating heart of two nations. And the last one on their list, which I think is the most overlooked, but maybe the most important, the Netherlands North Sea Protection Works.
The Delta Works. This is a national survival mechanism. The Netherlands sits largely below sea level. After the disastrous flood of 1953, they just said, never again.
And it's not just one dam, is it? It's a whole system.
It's a web of dams, sluices, locks, dikes, and storm surge barriers. The Oosterschelde-Carring barrier is particularly impressive. It has these massive sliding gates that can slam shut when a storm hits. It's the ultimate example of a country engineering its own existence.
See, I love this shift. We went from my king built a big tomb to we figured out how to stop the ocean from drowning us.
It reflects a democratization of wonders. These aren't just for the elite.
Yeah.
Millions of people use the Channel Tunnel or rely on the power from Itaipu.
Speaking of democratization, let's fast forward to the 21st century. The Internet age. In 2001, a Swiss filmmaker named Bernard Weber starts a project called New Seven Wonders.
And this is where the definition of a wonder shifts again from expert consensus to global popularity contest.
The idea was simple. Let the world vote. They picked 200 existing monuments, put them online, and supposedly over 100 million votes were cast.
Which sounds great in theory, this idea of global participation. But in practice, it led to some very funny, very intense geopolitical dynamics. Countries started campaigning for their monuments like they were politicians running for office.
Brazil had these massive vote for the Christ campaigns. Jordan pushed hard for Petra.
Which led to the Great Giza controversy.
Oh, this was awkward. So the Great Pyramid of Giza, the only surviving ancient wonder, was on the ballot. And the Egyptian antiquities officials were, well, they were insulted.
Deeply. Their head of antiquities, Zahi Hawass, basically said, excuse me, you want the pyramids to compete with the Sydney Opera House. We've been standing for 4,500 years. We define the list. We don't need your vote.
They felt it was degrading.
Exactly. So the organizers caved, they pulled Giza from the voting and gave it honorary candidate status. It's like the Lifetime Achievement Award of Wonders.
So who actually won the popularity contest? Let's run through the winners from 2007.
It's a very geographically diverse list, which is a huge improvement. The Great Wall of China, no surprise there. Petra in Jordan, the Rose City carved into rock.
Christ the Redeemer in Brazil. Machu Picchu in Peru.
The Incan citadel in the clouds. The engineering there is all about earthquakes. They use these dry stone walls. Stones fit so perfectly without mortar that they can move during a quake and then settle back into place.
Chichen Itza in Mexico.
The Mayan city. The El Castillo Pyramid is basically a calendar made of stone. It has 365 steps.
The Colosseum in Italy, finally getting its due. And the Taj Mahal in India.
It's a solid list. You can't really argue with any of those being wonders, but you can see the bias of the vote, can't you?
It's the Instagram list.
It's the Instagram list. These are the most photogenic, most iconic tourist destinations on Earth.
Okay, so we've done the ancient, the engineering, and the popular. But what I love about this topic are the subcultures of wonders that nobody talks about. The niche lists. This is where we see true passion.
Let's talk about the 7 wonders of the underwater world.
This was put together by GandM International, a group of divers and marine scientists. And this list marks a total shift in philosophy. It's not about building things.
It's about preserving things.
Yep.
Exactly. So you get the Belize Barrier Reef, Lake Baikal in Russia, but you also get things like deep-sea hydrothermal vents.
The black smokers.
Yeah. These are volcanic vents on the ocean floor, spewing superheated water, and around them you find entire ecosystems, giant tube worms, blind shrimp that exist without any sunlight. They rely on chemosynthesis, not photosynthesis.
To a marine biologist, that is infinitely more wonderful than a stone pyramid. It's the wonder of life finding a way where it has no business existing.
It's a pivot from look what humans did to look what Earth did.
Now let's swing back to humans for a second. The Industrial Wonders. This comes from a book and a BBC series. This is for the steampunk fans.
The iron and steam era, the grit of the Industrial Revolution. You've got things like the SS Great Eastern, a massive ship built by Isambard Kingdom Brunel.
But my absolute favorite entry on this list, and maybe my favorite dark horse candidate for any world wonder list, is the London sewer system.
Yes, Joseph Bazalgette's masterpiece.
It sounds ridiculous to call a sewer a wonder. Imagine explaining that to an ancient Greek. In the future, one of our greatest wonders will be the drains.
But look at the context. Mid-19th century London, the Great Stink of 1858. The Thames was literally fermenting with human waste. Cholera was rampant.
And people were dying by the thousands.
Bazalgette didn't just lay pipes. He built over 1,000 miles of sewers. He terraformed the underground of a major metropolis. And in doing so, he probably saved more lives than the Great Wall and the pyramids combined.
It brings us back to that definition. Is a wonder something that makes you say, wow, or is it something that allows civilization to even exist?
Exactly. The London sewers are the great unseen wonder.
Which connects back to that ASCE list.
Hmm.
But if we want to talk about ultimate scale, we have to leave the planet entirely.
The 7 wonders of the solar system.
This is from Astronomy magazine. And this just puts everything else into perspective. We think Mount Everest is big.
Everest is a speed bump compared to Olympus Mons on Mars.
Give me the specs on it.
It's a shield volcano the size of the state of Arizona. It's about 21 kilometers high, so 2.5 times the height of Everest. It actually pokes out of the thin Martian atmosphere.
That is terrifying and awesome. What else is on the cosmic list?
The rings of Saturn, the great red spot of Jupiter, a storm that's been raging for at least 400 years and is bigger than Earth. And Enceladus, a moon of Saturn with geysers shooting water into space from a subsurface ocean.
So we started with a statue trying to mimic the heavens, and now our wonders are the heavens themselves.
It's a trajectory of expansion. We started by looking at our neighborhood, the Mediterranean, then our planet, then our tools, and now we're looking at our context, the solar system.
So let's wrap this up. What is the takeaway here? Why do we keep making these lists?
I think it's because the definition of wonder changes as we change. In the ancient world, wonder was about power and myth. Look at this giant god we built.
Then in the modern era, it became about capability and connectivity.
Look how we bridged this strait. And now, wonder is shifting toward appreciation. Whether it's a coral reef or a storm on Jupiter, we are awed by the things we didn't build.
It's humbling.
It is. The list is a mirror. You tell me what your 7 wonders are, and I'll tell you what your society values.
That's a powerful thought. So here's a question I want to leave everyone with today. We've gone from the pyramids to the sewer system to the internet to Mars. If we project this forward, 500 years from now, what's on the list?
That is the question, isn't it?
Will it be biological? You know, a new species we engineer? Will it be digital consciousness uploaded to a cloud? Or will it be something like a terraform structure on Mars?
Or maybe, just maybe, the list will include something we managed to preserve from right now. Maybe the wonder of the year 2500 will be the last glacier or the Great Barrier Reef.
The wonder of preservation.
Exactly. The fact that we managed not to destroy it might be the greatest wonder of all.
A bit somber, but hopeful. It puts the responsibility on us.
It does.
Well, until we start terraforming Mars, I guess we'll just have to appreciate the sewers and the bridges we have. Thanks for exploring the impossible with us today.
Always a pleasure.